Everyone, and welcome back to another video on the channel. And in today's video we will be going through my round 11 AFL tips and predictions, and as well as that we'll be recapping last week's tips to see how I did in the tipping for round 10. If you guys do go on to enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a thumbs up on the video and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Without further ado, we'll get straight into the tips. So last week, starting it off, we had Carlton and Sydney at Marvel Stadium. The Blues ended up getting it done by a 15-point margin, and I ended up tipping Carlton by a 12-point margin. So starting off the week, really good, only 3 points off the first game in terms of margin. Got the tip correct as well. So yeah, pretty decent tipping. I thought the Swans, they played decent at Marvel, but Carlton in a little bit better form, and it was a really good game. It was obviously a shootout at Marvel Stadium, and a lot of goals scored, and a very high scoring matchup. Very interesting game of footy between the Blues and the Swans, and I ended up tipping the Blues to get it done, and I was only 3 points off for that game. Moving on to the Saturday games, we had Geelong and Port Adelaide at GMHBA. I ended up tipping Geelong by 21 points, and they got it done by 35. 14 points off the final margin for this tip. Isn't too bad, still got the first two tips correct, and yeah, tipped Geelong, which is pretty much all that matters. Moving on to the next game, we had the Doggies and the Suns at Mars Stadium. I actually went an upset here. I did go against the odds and tip the Gold Coast Suns. I tipped the Suns to get it done by 9, and they lost by 19. So, you know, I thought, have to risk it to get the biscuit. The Dogs lost against the Crows a few weeks earlier, so I thought if they're losing against the Crows at Mars Stadium, they're definitely going to be losing against the Suns. But yeah, the Dogs, only a 19-point win, not very convincing game, to say the least, for the Dogs, but still got the 4 points. But yeah, percentage booster, not really much of a factor in this game. Tipped the Suns and got that one incorrect for my first incorrect tip of the round. Moving on to the next game, it was North Melbourne versus Melbourne at Marvel Stadium. Tipped the D's to get it done by 37 points, and they got it done by 47 points. So the margins actually have not been too far away. For every tip that I've got correct so far, the margin has been within 20 points. So yeah, pretty good tipping for the margin, and also got that one correct because not sure many people would have been tipping North Melbourne in that game. Moving on to Saturday night footy, it was Adelaide and the Saints at Adelaide Oval. I ended up tipping St Kilda to get it done by 16 points, and they got it done by 21 points, only 5 points off the final margin. So just realising, recapping from last week's tips, the margins are being pretty spot on so far, and I did tip the Saints to get it done at Adelaide Oval, and they did get the 4 points, so tipping not too bad to start off with. Then we head over to the MCG for Dreamtime at the G. It was Richmond and Essendon. I tipped the Tigers to get it done by 34, and they got it done by 32. 2 points off the margin. Can you believe it? This is probably the most accurate round of tipping margins I've had. However, definitely not the best round of actual tipping. Moving on to the Sunday games now, we had GWS and West Coast. GWS thumped the Eagles out of the park by 52 points at Giant Stadium, and I actually did tip the Eagles to get this done. So really disappointing tip, getting another one incorrect. Not sure what I was going. I thought maybe, you know, West Coast have to get another win on the board. Obviously, that's not the case. GWS kicking 21 goals in this game and defeated the West Coast Eagles by 52 at their home venue. Moving on to the next Sunday game, it was Hawthorn and Brisbane. Absolute shootout down in Tasmania. The Hawks got it done by 5 points in the end, with both teams scoring over 100 points. It looks closer than what it was. There was a goal scored pretty much on the final siren for the Brisbane Lions. I tipped the Hawks to get it done by 27. They got it done by a 5-point margin. So that's another pretty difficult tip to get correct. So yeah, decent tipping from myself, and we'll move on to the last game of the round. It was Fremantle and Collingwood at Optus Stadium. Being a Fremantle fan myself, I also did tip the Dockers to get it done by a 14-point game, and we lost by 6 goals, 36-point margin. Were the final scores. So yeah, pretty decent round of tipping, 6 out of 9, back to my probably average, I would say, for this year so far. And we will move straight on to the round 11 tips. Moving on to my round 11 tips, first game of the round, it is a blockbuster at the SCG. We have Sydney and Richmond going head to head. The Swans, heavy favourites going into this game. However, coming off a loss against Carlton at Marvel Stadium, and the Tigers coming off a pretty strong performance at the MCG on the Saturday night against the Bombers. I think I'll be tipping the Swans to get it done only because it is being played in Sydney. I'll be tipping the Swans to get it done by a healthy 26-point margin. Moving on to the Saturday games now. For round 11, we have Brisbane Lions taking on the GWS Giants at the Gabba, and I feel like this could be a real big win, real percentage booster for the Brisbane Lions. They're already on a percentage of 143, the second best in the league so far. I feel like this could, get boosted a lot higher than 143. I feel like GWS, the last few times they've played at the Gabba taking on Brisbane, they've got smashed out of the park. So I feel like Brisbane, much dominant team, much more stronger team. GWS coming off a really strong win against West Coast at their home venue. They're sitting in 14th, Brisbane sitting in 2nd, only lost 1 out of their last 5 games, the Brisbane Lions, and GWS have lost 3 out of their last 5 games. Now, coming off a win against West Coast, there's not really much we can take from that game, as pretty much every team is beating West Coast nowadays. I'll be tipping Brisbane to get it done. They're just a much more dominant side, and I feel like I'll be tipping them to get it done by 48 points. Moving on to the next game on the Saturday, same starting time as the previous game. It is Geelong and Adelaide at 1:45 p.m. at GMHBA Stadium. Geelong, obviously heavy favourites coming to this game as they are hosting Adelaide in Geelong. I will be tipping the Cats to get it done by 39 points. I feel like it'll just be a cruise sailing game for the Cats, and I don't feel like they're going to have much to worry about facing Adelaide at GMHBA. Not sure when the last time the Crows did actually play at GMHBA Stadium, but I'm going to be honest, I don't really think they stand a chance there. Geelong, second home game in a row, they just took on the power there and got it done convincingly, and I feel like they'll do the same against the other Adelaide rivals. Moving on to the next game in round 11, we have Melbourne and Fremantle at the MCG. Being a Fremantle fan, I have not tipped against my team yet this year. However, taking on the D's, it's going to be really hard not to tip the D's. If I'm going to be honest, I think I'd rather get my tips right than just always tip my team. I'm going to genuinely tip with my head here. I'll be tipping the D's to get it done, and I don't know if it'll be as big a margin as everyone's thinking it will be. Now, obviously, Freo coming off 2 horrible losses, coming off a loss against Gold Coast up at Metricon, and coming off a loss against Collingwood at our home venue in Optus Stadium. However, both games were just really horrible weather-wise, and the Dockers cannot play wet weather footy whatsoever. So, to be honest, I'm definitely not surprised that we have, lost the last 2 previous games, and I always knew, I never got too cocky. I always knew that the Dockers do drop off. We get our hopes high, and then we always drop off against the shit teams, which is what we have been proven to do. At the MCG, I feel like Melbourne will be dominant in this game, and I will tip them to get it done by 29 points. Moving on to the Saturday night matchups now, we have the West Coast Eagles and the Western Bulldogs at Optus Stadium. The Western Bulldogs, heavy favourites coming to this game, being $1.08 towards them and $8 towards the West Coast Eagles. I'll be tipping the Doggies to get it done by a 56-point game. I feel like they just stand no chance, the Eagles, and the Dogs, I feel like they can actually really prove dominant if they want to be, and they smashed the West Coast Eagles last year when the Eagles were actually pretty decent, and the Dogs will have some confidence after 2 wins in a row, and I feel like they'll get it done by a healthy 56-point gap. Moving on to the last game on the Saturday, it is Gold Coast and Hawthorn at TIO Stadium. This is going to be a really close matchup as both teams aren't performing too bad. Gold Coast 12th, Hawthorn 13th, and both teams, let's be honest, have a pretty poor last 5 game ratio. Hawthorn just won their previous game, also against Brisbane in a shootout at UTAS, and the Suns got defeated by Dogs at Mars Stadium. Gold Coast have the money to win this one. They've got the odds on their side, and I will be going with the odds. I feel like Gold Coast get it done. 3-point game, absolute thriller up at TIO Stadium. Don't see many games there played every year. You're going to be tipping the Suns to get it done in a thriller. Moving on to the Sunday matchups, we have the St Kilda Saints taking on North Melbourne Marvel Stadium at 1:10 p.m. and the Saints $1.05 to win it. North Melbourne $10 to win this. It'd be stupid to be going North Melbourne in this game, and especially with St Kilda having pretty decent form this year. They're sitting 5th on the table and definitely expected to perform a bit shitter than what they have been. So St Kilda proving dominance in this year's fixture. North Melbourne sitting 2nd last on the table, and only 1 game recorded for their wins this year for the Kangaroos. Going to be tipping the Saints to get it done by, I reckon, a big game. I reckon it's going to be a really big win, really big strong win for the Saints. 74 points final margin. Second last game of round 11, we have Collingwood and Carlton, the classic rivalry, the biggest rivalry in AFL footy at the MCG, 3:20 p.m. It's just a prime time game, Sunday 3:20. It's a beautiful time slot. I'm going to be leaning towards Carlton. They're sitting third, Carlton, won their last 4, and you have a percentage of 114, but sitting in the top 3, the Blues, and Collingwood sitting 10th on the ladder. So gonna definitely be leaning towards the Blues. I feel like Collingwood will definitely bring up a big effort, but gonna tip the Blues to get it done by 5 points. Another thrilling game in round 11. The Pies will definitely bring the contest to the Blues. However, the Blues will be a bit too strong, and we've seen them hold on to some pretty, well, nearly big chokes against Port Adelaide and a few other teams this year. So I feel like, yeah, they're gonna get a lead. Pies come back, and the Blues will just hold on in the end. Last game for round 11, we have Port Adelaide and the Bombers at Adelaide Oval, 4:40 p.m. Sunday. Essendon definitely not the favourites coming into this game, them being $6 to win the game, and Port Adelaide being $1.13. Port Adelaide sitting 11th, and they have been on a pretty big winning streak, the Power. Unfortunate to lose against, Geelong and GMHBA. It's always a pretty difficult task, and Essendon sitting 16th on the ladder and just having a really underperforming season. The Bombers definitely will be tipping Port Adelaide to get this done, and I'll tip them to get it done by 51 points. So a pretty comfortable, easy win for Port Adelaide. I feel like back at home, they'll prove dominance once again and bounce back from the shocking loss against Geelong. Essendon haven't proved much this year, coming off a loss against Richmond at Dreamtime at the G. Richmond proving to be probably a decent side, decent balanced side, in the 2022 season. And I feel like Essendon, unlucky. Maybe if this was played at Marvel, I would probably still lead towards Port Adelaide, but yeah, the Bombers, don't see them really standing a chance in this game. Thank you all so much for watching today's video. If you guys did enjoy, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. These tips will be coming out weekly, so make sure to subscribe, turn on the post notifications so you do not miss an upload, and I'll see you all in my next video.